Yo, how are we all doing today? Hello, hello, hold on. I'm so disorganized right now. Hey, what's up? If I sound a little bit weird, just let me know because I did change some audio settings for OBS. But yeah, how are y'all doing? Also, guess what? Guess what? You will not believe it. I am sick again. I am fucking sick again. It is that time of year again. Not only am I getting hit with a cold, I'm also getting hit with fucking allergies. Yeah, it was inevitable. My mom has been sick for like the past week. I'm surprised it's taking me this long to actually start feeling it. God damn it, it's another day, it's another day. It's typical. Would it be a limit if I'm not getting sick like every other week? Nah, I feel like I feel like a part of it has to do with, well, streaming and all of that. Not to say like, oh, I'm blaming streaming for my poor health or anything. It's just the fact that it feels like every time I finish streaming or something, my throat is so strained. And I guess it's just because I'm not used to speaking that much, especially for like during the times or during the weeks when I am working on videos and stuff. Oh my god, you don't know how much work goes into making these videos behind the scene. But I would say I spent like 5+ hours trying to do voiceovers for a video that I'm just scrapping, that I just decided to scrap at the very end of the day. Because to be honest, the video was just not going to work out. It didn't make sense for it to be a video on its own. But that only came to my mind like 5 hours after recording, and my throat was absolutely dead. And I'm just like, you know what I need to do? I need to be like those VAs or those singers or even like other full-time live streamers who do vocal exercises before they do any sort of like stream or voiceovers or whatever, because bro, I suck ass at speaking. I suck so much at speaking, and I'm paying the price for it with my vocal cords. Boom, what up? Hello Anthony, hello, how you doing? But yeah, besides the video that I spent a fuck long time before throwing out over the weekend, I've actually, okay, I don't know whether to say I've been productive or not. I do feel like I got a lot of work done, but at the same time, I feel like I could have gotten a lot more work done. You know what I mean? At least for like the schedule that I've given myself, I expected myself to be way further along, but it also feels like I haven't been slacking that much, right? I guess I can probably show you. I mean, yeah, besides the dozen hours I spent working on that one video, I've also been doing a lot of changes to Personal Vita. As you can see here, this looks pretty different from the last time we were here, right? Also, you can see the timer, we're at 12 hours now. I don't remember when we left off. I think we left off at like 6, 8, I don't remember how long. But most of those hours just pretty much came from yesterday. But if you remember, after last stream, I finished up the llama server, but there was some problems where, because the models were being loaded in the same file that the server was being launched, they were getting like double loaded, right? And so I made a quick change after stream. It only took like 30 minutes, so I could have streamed it, to be honest. But this is what the llama server looks like now. And yeah, you can tell there's like nothing in here. So where did all this shit go? I moved it out basically to its own file. So it's no longer going to be like one file per microservice. It's now going to be spread across each multiple of them. But I think this is a little bit better, right? Because one, I can load up a model separately, and I can also import it as though it's its own like package or whatever, but I can also load it up with a fast API interface. So I can either directly import it as a Python package, or I can just load it up as a separate fast API process and just call it through its API. So I have two options, and I think it's more flexible. Having a server like this is not redundant, because I feel like this is a lot better for when it comes to debugging, testing changes, all that stuff. And you're going to be seeing the same thing for prompter, the prompter that we're making today. Even though, hold on, my throat, even though we're probably not going to be running the prompter as its own microservice, in production at least, it's still nice to have the ability to run it as its own microservice using fast API. That way we can test the endpoints manually through the fast API Swagger documentation, or having guarantees on the input side of things. Also, I guess I can show some more of the work that I did over the weekend, because this refactor for each of these services that I showed on stream, that took like half an hour after last stream. But where the last 4 hours came from was actually from making these 3 different MCP tools. And unlike the old MCP tools, I actually put a lot more effort into these. So you'll see we have the Discord bot, 300 lines of code here, the Twitch MCP, that's like 700 lines here, and VTube Studio I'm still not done implementing this, but this is about 400 lines. And basically what these MCPs are, they're kind of the same thing as the applications that we have now, right? You'll see on, I guess, my GitHub or whatever, you'll see we have these applications here for Discord, Twitch, VTube Studio. They do the exact same things, but the reason why they're MCP is because I also want to give JAISN the ability to do stuff on her own, right? To actually interact with these applications. So for example, the Discord MCP here, we given her a tool to send direct messages to people. So she is able to send messages directly to me. I actually haven't tested it because there are some extra things that we need in order for JAISN to work. But the same thing with Twitch here. She can start predictions, start polls, manage polls, ban users, timeout users, change stream titles, all of that kind of stuff, right? Along with all the old functionality of being able to see Twitch chat, see subscriptions, follows, donations, all of that stuff. And there has also been a lot of refactors trying to simplify the logic for something like audio handling for Discord. Originally, the state machine for the Discord side of things was an absolute atrocity. But I've gone ahead, I've given it some more thought, and it's a lot simpler now, right? The amount of variables, the amount of queues, the amount of await flags that I'm using has been effectively been cut in half. And I think the logic is a lot simpler, but then again, this is a massive file, right? 400 lines of code. Even when I was going through the original project to try and copy paste over and refactor, I think this is like the first time where I can confidently say I kind of forgot what my code did. And it wasn't too bad because for the most part, I just deleted and re-implemented some of the things, but I can see it being a problem in the future when I start working on other parts of Project JAISN and don't come back and refactor this as often. I'm definitely gonna forget a lot of shit. There's probably gonna be some bugs and they're gonna be a hell of a lot more annoying to fix. All right, I haven't even tested these, so I don't even know if these are bug-free yet. I'm just crossing my fingers and hoping they are. But we'll see. We'll see once I actually put everything together, hopefully on Friday, and once we do that, I'll be able to do some dry runs off stream to test if everything works correctly. Because, well, this is the main functionality that I want for JEISON to have, on top of some other... I have a list, but I don't want to show it right now on stream. There's a list of functionalities that I want to also give her some more tools, just so she has some extra content to stream with when she does make her return. If it works, don't touch it. Yeah, if it works, don't touch it, but I have a feeling it's not gonna work. Leak it? Y'all are feisty. Y'all need some patience. Also, At My Limit channel has cut content. It's always had cut content. There is 500 fucking hours of this shit. Damn near 600, I would say, actually. And that's only for the coding side of things that I do for recording. It doesn't include the research I do off stream. It doesn't include all the papers that I've read off stream. It doesn't include all the time that I spend editing, making assets, all that shit. So even though after 1 year, I'd say 1 year, 600 hours, it's kind of low in the grand scheme of things if you were to do this full time. But then again, I am also not doing this full time. So I would say 600 hours is pretty good. But then once you take into account all the fucking editing and shit like that, that's like, we're probably damn near, I'd say like 1K hours now. 1K. I wouldn't say 1.5 because the last half year has mostly been coding instead of like editing and all that stuff. But it's kind of crazy to think about. It's kind of crazy to think about that. We've been here for well, over 1,000 hours, I'm pretty sure now, or at least I have. And if you were to combine all the content that you have on YouTube, that you have on Twitch, all the VODs and shit, I'd say there's like, I mean, do we count Twitch VODs as part of the cut content or not part of the content? If we don't include Twitch streams, if we say Twitch streams are part of cut content, whenever it doesn't make it from the Twitch stream to the videos, in terms of main videos, I'd say there's like three hours of content, maybe 2 hours of content. So that's like a 300 times fucking 300 times decrease or 300% compression of this entire journey so far. I hope you're taking breaks. We don't want you to burn out. It's been 600 hours. I don't think I'll be burning out anytime soon. It's not like I'm demotivated for working on JEISON, and I am taking decent breaks, right? I am trying to live like a proper life. I am trying to stay healthy, especially ever since Germany. But it's like, this shit takes time. I'm not like complaining that like, oh man, I hate how long this is taking. I'm like enjoying my time. It's just that it takes time, and I hope you guys also understand that this shit takes time, right? I'm not like a 10x engineer. I'm not like a fucking expert with 10 years of experience working on this thing. I'm quite literally learning this alongside all of you guys. So I hope you can understand that this is, I am going as fast as I can for what is meant to be a more healthy hobby, in my opinion, or a healthy approach to a hobby. Ugh. Oh my god, my throat. Timmy is 9 and has 15 years of experience, bro. I can't compete with Timmy. These are the fuckers that are all competing with me for the same jobs and shit. Nah, this is the Waterloo kid. This is the Waterloo 13-year-old that's working at Shopify. Fucking hell, man. 13 years old, got more experience than me. Actually making higher in life as well. Like, goddamn. Could it be me? I am like, in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of programmers, okay, I wouldn't say I'm like coughing baby status anymore, right? I feel like I'm pretty competent to hold myself up and learn my own shit. But I would say I'm approaching 1x engineer, right? If a 10x engineer is 10,000 hours, I'll say I'm a 1x engineer right now. My cousin in China created an AI 15 years after being born. 15 minutes? I was gonna say, I have a cousin that made one in 15 seconds after they were born. These Asians be crazy though. All right, without further ado then, let's get started on making this microservice for the prompter. So it's effectively going to be the same thing. Going to follow the same format as the microservices here that we have for like Mellow, for Llama, for Whisper, and we're going to put the actual prompter class under model. But the main way we're going to be using this inside of the overall application is as a library, right? As I said at the beginning of the stream, we're making this as a microservice purely for debugging and testing purposes. However, we're not actually going to be making use of the fast API side of things in production, right? Also, why no people at the bottom? Give me 1 second. I always forget because I need to click connect on the streaming avatars thing whenever I start stream. Yeah, let me just start the timer and let's begin. So the first thing we need to do, let's create a new file and call this prompter.py. This needs to be, I was gonna say we're gonna generalize this, but because this is my own project, I don't really need to fucking generalize this. I already have a specific prompt template in mind for at least this side of things. So I'm going to be trying to implement that here. I'll explain what that template looks like in a little bit, but this is purely for personality prompting. For MCP and all that stuff, they're gonna have their own prompts managed by their own tools and whatever, because they will differ. So this prompter class, this is where the main class is going to be. So to do implement the main class, the server over here, this is going to be prompter.py as well for the server, and this is going to be implement, or to do implement fast API interface. And last but not least, we need to create the actual entry point script at the very top. So prompter server.py, right? And this will be to do run the fast API server, right? There are some easy changes right now that we can make. Right? The same thing that we have to do for every other server. We need to create a new enum for it, just so we have some more organization around here. So this is going to be the prompter server. I'm gonna call you the prompter. If I do need another prompter server in the future, specifically for like MCP or something, then I guess I'll just rename this to like personality prompter, for example. But there shouldn't be any more changes that we need to make here. Same with helper, logger, meta class, that's all okay. We're going to copy the contents from Llama server into prompter server here. And this configs group is actually going to be prompter server. Rename this to prompter server so we can get the logs for it. And we're just going to replace everything that says llama with prompter. All right, this all looks good. This is all we needed to do for the prompter server here. So this should load it up. We'll have host port reload. Let me just go over to the config here and copy paste the Llama server configuration. So we'll need the host, we'll need the port, we'll need the reload. Environment path, I am thinking of changing this into a global configuration, because right now we have the ability to configure environment per file path, but I'm just thinking that this just isn't necessary. Like, what are the chances environment variable names are going to clash, right? I'll leave this here for now. I'll refactor it off stream, but that's just what I'm thinking. Instead of Llama server, this is a prompter server, and there shouldn't be anything else we need for configuration. What's this dude yapping about today? We're making a prompter, and we're making it a microservice, not to actually make use of it as a microservice, but the fast API interface is just a way for us to debug the actual class that is interfacing for. That's all good. This is all good. We don't actually care about you anymore. Now for the server, what the heck is a prompter service? It's just a microservice for managing my conversation history and generating prompts and whatnot, right? It's not like I'm actually going to be making use of the fast API or the microservice in production. I'm just making use of fast API for debugging purposes. Whereas the real thing, the actual class that, yes, the lobotomy service, but the actual class is implemented as a normal Python package. So that way in the actual application I create for production, it'll just import the prompter and make use of it there, so it doesn't have to do all these HTTP requests and whatnot. All right. Even though it's local, it still does add up in terms of latency. Not a big cost when you take into consideration like time to generate responses and all that, but we might as well just not have to deal with that overhead. So this prompter server here, we are importing fast API, cores, middleware. I am making use of Pydantic now. Well, we were making use of Pydantic for fast API, but I also learned to make use of it for the MCP servers. And oh my God, I am like, the more I work with Pydantic, the more I'm like falling in love with it. I used to absolutely hate Pydantic because of the type restrictions, because I didn't really know how to make use of it. And one of the first project that introduced me to it, I wasn't really familiar with the service. So I was gutting all the typing and all that shit because, well, it's my own project, right? But once I actually build up the models for myself, the Pydantic models, and I'm making use of them just for like input validation and stuff like that. Oh my God, I absolutely love this thing, especially for, where is it? Something like the Discord MCP. I'm able to have an enum for something like strings, and that allows me to kind of restrict the options that we have for inputable strings. So as opposed to having some sort of just string field here, okay, just input a string. We don't really tell you what types or what strings we accept, and then having a validator inside of here to assert that, oh, it's in this kind of list of things. We can just have an enum here, and this is like a lot cleaner, a lot more readable for me at least. And I don't know, I just like the type validation that comes with Pydantic and how much more convenient it makes creating these interfaces and documentation. It's just so well integrated with a lot of things. But yeah, the app, that's fine. Warm up, we don't really care about warm up. We can keep the health check, sure. And we'll keep one of these. One of these other endpoints just as a reference. Yep, Pydantic makes validation so clean and easy, it really does. So once we finish making our actual prompter class, we'll come over back to this actual server and implement one endpoint for each of the main functions that should be used, or one of the public functions. That way we can test each endpoint through the web UI, as opposed to having to make some dummy terminal application to kind of interface with the prompter. So let's come over to this class here and let's create the prompter. This prompter, I guess, doesn't really need to be a singleton, unlike these other models. These other models have to be a singleton. Otherwise, when we do reloads on the server side, it ends up gutting, or it ends up creating and loading up multiple models. I guess we can make this a singleton. That way we don't actually lose the information or the history in between reloads. Thank you, Lux, for the 1 gifted sub. So meta class, we'll need to import the actual singleton from util.helper, no meta class, import singleton. Okay, there we go, define init. I don't really know what we'll need for init just yet, but I do know that we'll need to add to history. In JS, validation never feels so intuitive no matter the library I use. I guess that's why TypeScript exists, right? I'm not too familiar with TypeScript, but it adds types back into, typing back into JavaScript, or not like, I don't think it's typing in the traditional sense, but it just adds more type validation. Right, let me explain the actual format that I'm using now for JAISN that I've been testing behind the scenes. Yes, okay. Word wrap. So, if you remember all of my rambles about what prompting really is, you'll know that whenever I'm talking about prompting, I'm no longer talking about like system prompt, user prompt, and then assistant response, and then having this alternate, right? I'm no longer referring to the OpenAI kind of...
Kizaru is now following.
Thank you, Kizaru, for the follow. I'm no longer thinking about it through the lens of OpenAI spec, right? Where they have the system prompt, the user prompt, and then the assistant response, and kind of like the history. But I've basically created my own chat template. Well, I wouldn't really say it's a full-on independent chat template or a different chat template, but it's one that kind of injects better into existing chat templates and all that stuff. I don't know really how to explain it, but basically when I refer to a prompt, I'm referring to the entire block of text that gets tokenized and sent to the LLM, as opposed to the individual inputs that go into a prompt template that then gets tokenized and inputted, right? So what it should theoretically look like now is we have a header for scene. It may not actually be like this. Let me try and put it for what it actually is. So scene and then end. So put scene here, scene description here, and then end. We have another one for capabilities, and then list of tools and abilities, and then end, right? This is, you can think of it as a system prompt, but it's broken down into 2 different sections. If I were to translate this into OpenAI, then I would just do something like, I don't know, inside the system prompt, you would have something like scene, and then you'll put the scene description down there. Capabilities. And then you put the list of capabilities and tools down here, right? And then when I'm actually making use of OpenAI models, I would fine-tune a new model to kind of understand that this is in fact the scene description and how to make use of this, as well as this is a list of capabilities and how to make use of this. So I'm technically not doing something like what the alpaca prompt is doing, where it's saying you will have a section for instructions and a section for user input, right? I'm not saying something like this. I'm not saying you will have a section for the scene and a section for the tools at your disposal. Instead of expending tokens writing this out, I'm just deleting it and fine-tuning it to understand this, right? So we have these two for effectively what is the system prompt. And then we have 4 chat options, right? Inside of OpenAI, you used to just have the user and the assistant prompts, right? The user being you or whoever it is inputting into there, and then the assistant being the AI, right? There was no extra metadata that you could provide that was already built in order to indicate who this user is. So you couldn't differentiate between me and Lux, for example, right? All the input, it would just look as though it was coming from me, for example. The only way to differentiate this is if you were to add a new field just before the actual content of your response to say, okay, this is like user input, right? I would say the user is limit, and then I would have the actual content here. So this, if you were to do this with OpenAI, this would be how you would do it. You would have a sacrificial line for all the metadata. So this is like user limit, and then the actual content below there, or user lux, and then the actual content down here, right? You could also add stuff like time, and then you could have the actual timestamp, like right now, September 10, 3:37 PM, or something like that. And then the actual content down here, right? Basically one line for metadata, new line after that, and then the actual content below that. And once again, you would fine tune your LLM to understand this. So they will know that this isn't actually being spoken by the user, but being used as metadata. And when it appears inside the actual chat template after it's been thrown through the prompt template or whatever, it'll be as though it's like been part of the prompt template this entire time. And so how we're doing this, or the reason why we have 4 now, is we have one for the user, but we also have one for a narrator. We have one for action or assistant action, and we have one for assistant response. So this is combining the use of a system prompt or the existence of a higher being that exists above the conversation and has context for everything, that's describing what's happening in the outer world. So this is the context provider, and basically somebody that's not actually part of the conversation, but feeding sensory data to the AI, versus assistant action and assistant response. Assistant action is basically bringing thinking or tool calling to the AI, as well as having response for the actual response. So the AI can either choose to create an action or to create a response. And when it creates an action, it's not going to be like traditional tool calling, where it's going to be like JSON, for example, call this tool, Discord DM. no, it's not going to do this, right? Instead, my idea for the assistant action here is to instead explain what it wants to do inside of plain text. So I want to send limit a DM saying good morning, right? When it sees this as the response under an action, the system will understand that this is an action and then send this as input to a separate tool calling LLM. Tool calling LLM, which will generate some structured output that will use the correct tools to make sure that this happens. Something like that, right? And you can also chain things together. So I want to search my memories for project JEISON. And if it doesn't find anything, so no results, then maybe we'll have another action that says, since there's no memories, I want to search the internet. And so it's now becoming recursive. It allows JEISON to iteratively understand the results of their previous tool calls, chain together multiple tool calls, do more complex things, and also incorporate JEISON's personality and understanding of all of the data that she's been fine-tuned on in order to coordinate some actions and have a tool calling LLM understand the intent of what JEISON wants to do in order to call the correct tools. So we no longer have this discrepancy between the AI and the tool calling AI, where it used to be the tool calling AI would get the entire context of the conversation and then decide what tools it wants to do, decide the intent of JEISON, for example, because this tool calling LLM doesn't have the personality or the previous knowledge that JEISON does. All it was given is the conversation history and the latest question that was asked by me, for example, and it would try to figure out what tools I should call based off of that. And this was leading to a bunch of problems such as over abusive tools or doing something like an internet search when it should have done a memories query, for example. But if I were to use this with JEISON directing all the actions, then the fine-tuned data, JEISON would know that she was created from Project JEISON, and so she would know to search her memories first before searching the internet, for example, right? That's kind of my idea for how I want to approach the new prompting. And so we'll have one for narrator and some context information such as Twitch chat is saying hi, and token as well. We can have user, have this be limit as the name, and then we would have a there, right? End. And then you would have action and response, blah, 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 right? You kind of get the idea, and then this can appear in any order. JEISON can decide whether if she wants to perform an action or just directly go to response, stuff like that, right? This part is a little bit contentious because if I have JEISON decide whether or not they want to perform an action or response, I can't do it like this. I would need to have it just be a general response and then have the first line that they generate be an action or speak, right? This way we make sure that it is within the boundaries or within the context of a response, and it doesn't end up generating something like a user tag or a narrator tag, right? So technically it's 3, but in reality, you can think of it as 4 different conversational tags. Isn't that more complex for no reason? I've given it a lot of thought, and this is probably the most integrated way I can involve JAISIN in terms of, one, understanding context in an IRC kind of format, and two, differentiating between different users, and last but not least, three, incorporating thinking/actions, or making JAISIN more of an agentic AI. As much as I hate the term, this is a proper use case of the term agentic. Are the models people are going to use smart enough for this? I've given it a try with OpenAI already, and the results were very promising after like a small fine tune of like 10 conversations, right? It was very smart in being able to first query memories whenever it saw something that was relevant to JAISIN, even if it wasn't something predominantly spoken about or drilled inside of the data set, just like one mention of it, and it was able to understand like, okay, this is something that we've might have talked about. This seems in line with my personality. Let me check my memories to see if I have anything recalling on this. And if it doesn't work, then I can go search the internet for something like that, right? I've tried it out with OpenAI models. GPT-4o worked completely fine after the fine tune. Even without the fine tune, it took a lot of prompting. It took a really long ass prompt, but it was pretty okay. But if no OpenAI, that's the thing that I need to test. I'm pretty sure this should work fine because, again, once you go through the fine tuning step, it should understand this format pretty well. And at the end of the day, it's like a thinking model. All models, I'm pretty sure, are smart enough to get this, because it's not like a super complex task. It's not super out of the realm of just normal conversation. You're just adding some extra tags, right? You might have to make your own. No, actually, you don't even have to make your own tokenizers. Because you're just looking at strings. That's fine. That's completely fine. So literally the only thing that's gatekeeping an approach like this from normal models is just fine-tuning your normal models to be able to understand and parse out this format. Otherwise, you can just take any instruct or chat model and prompt the hell of it out of it and get the same results. I'm choosing to fine-tune it though because it gives more reliable results. Right. And I also did a little bit more research off stream into stuff like structured outputs and all that stuff. You can also make use of structured outputs in order to make sure you're getting the correct responses. However, for something like this, I think it's overkill, and I think fine tuning is a little bit easier, especially since you want to ingrain knowledge and a personality into your AI so it can call the correct tools based off of, well, its own person or its own person? Yeah, its own person. I wouldn't say personality because, well, this is more than just how they speak. It also incorporates all their experiences and everything that they've seen before. Right? So, we'll need a function for set scene, or let's just call this update scene. Update scene, self, scene prompt. We'll have one for capabilities. Update capabilities. So this is going to be a normal string. This is going to be a list of strings, right? A list of strings. A list of string does seem like it would make sense. And we're gonna have 4 things here. One for narrator, add narrator input, or add input. narrator. Can either keep this simple or... Let me think. Yeah, okay, we'll do it separately. I was thinking of just having a generalized add input function and then having an enum to kind of switch between the different parsing, but I think it's just easier if we just do this. So we have one for add narrator, we'll have one for user, one for action, and one for responses, yes. So this is the user, this is add action, add response, right? If you remember for Project JEISON, we basically had like a tag or a separate person, quote unquote, for every single one of the contexts. So something for like Twitch chat, for example, would be called context hashtag Twitch chat. But instead of having it metadata like that, we're just gonna have it so the narrator is explaining, okay, from the Twitch chat, this is the summary, for example, right? It's just putting it into plain text as opposed to having a label and then the actual context, because I feel like that's easier for one, for me to understand, and two, if it's easier for me to understand, it should be easier for the LLM to understand as well, right? That's kind of my thinking for it. Capability, narrator, context. This is just a string. User, we need the user. This is a name. String name, and we need our actual content. And this is also a normal string. The action. We'll just say this is normal content, as well as the response normal content, right? And these are just strings. We don't need to worry about the name or passing the name into action and response, kind of like the same way we do for user, because the AI should understand its identity through the fine-tuning process as well, all right? Otherwise, you can also put in the system prompt, for example, that your name is JEISON, for example. People will have to fine-tune their own models. Yes, because when you think about it, if you want to support all the different models out there, it's kind of a nightmare situation. I've given it a lot of thought. It's kind of a nightmare situation to try and support every single model type and model formatting with all their different chat templates and all of that. Sure, I could make use of their own chat templates, but then I would need to be able to differentiate, like in the future, what if we go beyond just normal instruct chat template or instruct templates? What if we go beyond normal chat templates? What if we add something more than just thinking tags? What if we want to support more actions or more, I guess, speaker tags than what we have existing right here, right? I think for the simplicity of Project JEISON, and keep in mind that this isn't Project JEISON, this is my own personal project, but I think even then, if I were to implement this for a Project JEISON, it would be a lot simpler to just provide my own model and spec for the prompt template that I'm making use of, so that people can actually get the best results possible out of Project JEISON, Project Vita, right? Why would I want to support every single model out there when it's just going to give half-assed results, right? When I can't guarantee that the results will not be broken, will not be spewing out random metadata, emojis, all that shit, right? Why would I want to let people change their own prompts if they don't even know how those system prompts will affect the models that they're using, right? The people who know how changing the prompts, how to actually prompt it so they can get the results that they want, they are already capable of going through the code, finding where to make those changes and refactoring as necessary. But the ability, trying to support the ability to support every single model, every single prompt possible, it's not within the scope of Project JAIs in order getting the best result out possible. Because I want this to be not to be a super ultra generalist tool. I don't want this to be like Cobalt CPP where you can literally use any model you want, right? And then do fucking text completion. I want this to be good for the purpose of running an AI VTuber, not for running all models. And so, yeah, if I wanted that, then I would just like include something like OpenAI or OpenRouter. In fact, yeah, I would include OpenRouter if that was the case. But my point is that that's not my case, which is why I'm not including stuff like OpenRouter, which is why I'm taking out a lot of the other implementations that I feel like people just shouldn't really be using if they want the best experience. And you might say that's just limiting people's choice, let them be able to choose. And I say to that, well, sometimes you gotta put up guardrails to protect people from themselves. That's just my philosophy on it. So for this, we'll have self.scene prompt, self.capabilities, self is a string. This is a list of strings. And self.history, right? History, this is also a list, but we're gonna customize this in a little bit because we'll want messages. We'll call this history or IRC messages. IRC messages? No, I'm just gonna call them messages, fuck it. And this is just gonna be some sort of base class that can be extended to create our narrator, user, action, and responses. Let people have the freedom to shoot themselves in the foot, but you need to understand that in order for me to give people the freedom to shoot themselves in the foot, I need to take away my freedom in being able to have them shoot themselves in the foot. It's just extra work for what doesn't contribute to a better product. It would be interesting having the ability to just have an evaluation suite that auto-tunes prompts to push prompts to their limits. It would need more experimentation to see if something like that would even increase performance, or if the AI generated prompts just leads to a degradation in performance, just leads to an increase of slop. Then use fine-tuning if they want better performance. Like, I do want to add the ability to fine-tune or to customize your AI personality directly within Project Vita, which is why a change like this is necessary, right? Because everything has their own way of fine-tuning shit, and by being able to constrict which or what the fine-tuning should look like, then it just makes things so much easier for me to do, right? It makes things so much easier for me to set up configurations for, as opposed to having to like make all these different adapters for different services to say, okay, this is how you fine tune or prompt for OpenAI, Gemini, Grok, all of that shit, right? Or even like local models, right? I just want to be able to have one model in which I can base everything around, and then people who want to customize their own personality are effectively customizing that one model. And if people are smart enough to understand how to fine-tune their own models, then they can just take the templates for the prompts and whatnot, use those to generate their own data sets and then train their own models, right? Oh, hell no, Grok. There's another Grok, G-R-O-Q. I wasn't referring to Elon's Grok. I mean, you could use Elon's Grok. I don't know if you can fine tune it, but you probably can. Insert scene prompt is equal to, or the length of it. Before we actually set it. That's fine. Same with capabilities. We want to make sure that none of these are empty. Otherwise, we need to pass an exception. This exception will just say scene prompt must not be empty. Capability description must not be empty. If all of that passes, then we can just throw it into here. Again, this is for use for myself, so I don't need to be too rigorous. I just need to not be stupid and understand my own interfaces and stuff. But we need to put these checks on the object side of things as opposed to the API side of things, because we're going to be using this prompter class directly as an import, as opposed to through some fast API interface with Pydantic validation, right? So we need to be a little bit more careful here. Ah, shit. Actually, the length of capabilities can be 0. I'll say that. Capabilities. Must be a list of descriptions or no descriptions, or empty list if no capabilities. Yep, that should be fine. Update the add input for the narrator, so we'll make 4 messages. Actually, before I do that, let's flesh out the messages. We just want to have a method for to create the line to text self. We want to be able to take the contents of this, is not implemented error, so that we can inject it directly to build our prompt, our input prompt. So we just need this to text. I think everything else is not really necessary. They can implement their own constructors. There doesn't necessarily need to be a constructor type here, or a default constructor. We can just say class narrator message. Have this implement message. Its own initializer, taking in the content. Self.content is equal to content, yep. And then we can override this function so that when we do output, we'll return, have here our tags, narrator, and in between here, we'll have the content. .format, self.content. And that should be good for here. We'll need one for user. User message. This needs to take in the username. I should probably add time as well, but I guess it's not really necessary. Time is such a minimal thing in terms of context that I'm just not going to include it for now. If I do feel like adding some sort of time context in the future, I can just easily refactor this so that each message takes in some time as well, and then inject it into the toText function somewhere here. Kind of like I would have a line for metadata and then the actual content like I described before for OpenAI examples, right? But for now, this is okay. For user, actually, it could come in handy. User. Self.user and self.content, right? The username will be on the first line, and then what they said will be on the next line. That's okay, right? Yes, that should be okay. We'll need one for action message. And we just need the content for that. This will be called user U. We'll call this U. And the first line will be action as opposed to the user, and then the actual content describing what that action is. And last but not least, response message. Again, this takes in content like before, but instead of action, we are going to have response. That's all okay. So we have our 4 message types here. You can make use of this inside the prompter now. We're just going to append this to the self history, making sure that content is not 0 or empty. Asserts content and the length of it is greater than 0. I'm pretty sure I can just do assert content, but whatever. Just be doubly sure. We'll append onto the history. Where is it? Narrator message. And the content for this will just be content. Now, we don't actually need to prune history directly in here. I think it's better if we have a separate function for pruning history. So define prune history. And this can just be keep length. this will just prune the history so that only the latest keep length messages will be included. And everything before then gets deleted. We don't actually need this. We just need to worry about pruning history once the context becomes too big to fit in a single context window. We want this to be negative keep length, and we want it to start there. Yes? Yeah, so if we want to keep only one message, then we'll start from -1 and keep everything after that. Okay, so yeah, this makes sense, I'm pretty sure. Okay. Continuing on to finish these ones. Narrator content must not be empty, da 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 da. Same thing for user. User content must not be empty. Same with the username. Username must not be empty. Are you able to give the AI Alzheimer's? Well, what are the symptoms of Alzheimer's again? It's not like dementia. If you're referring to dementia, actually, the AI technically already has dementia built into it. You just have to not give it, you just have to set this prune history to like 0 and it'll forget absolutely everything. And then you can have it try and generate its own shit. That way it has no recollection of what was said ever. You can make it, even make it forget its own identity. So yeah, you can give an AI dementia. All AIs actually have dementia, so. That's evil. I mean, J.E. Eisen wasn't far off from that either. Despite the fact we gave her the full context window, she had dementia still, so. Good response tag. Action message and response message. All right, and a prune history. That's all good. All right, this should make things very easy now. When we define generate prompt, it should be very easy now for us to generate the prompt. We can even specify how long of a history to include. So I'll say include length int, and for now I'll say this is none. So if include length is not none, then we're going to say that the keep length, or not the keep length, history length is equal to the length of self.history. So by default, it's going to include everything. But if we do have an include length, then we're going to overwrite it by saying history length is equal to include length. This way, we only include the latest include length number of messages. So first of all, the result, we're going to create this by first including the scene prompt and then the capabilities, as I mentioned before. So we have scene and end, and then capabilities.
What AI is in simple words? 7-year-old child who read a lot of books and in theory is expert but in practice doesn't know. You have to use special words to know what you want and has dementia.
I guess in theory an expert but in practice doesn't know. I mean, that's kind of debatable. It would be able to form connections and abstract or infer information based off of what it's seen before, because that's just how like the vector space works, right? That's how semantics work. But the reason why it has dementia is because it doesn't have memory between runs, right? It's not like context is cached. Even if you have KV cache, once the response is generated, everything gets dumped, unless if you rewrite the engine such that it keeps in between runs. But bog standard, it's gonna delete it. And so the next run, it'll have no recollection of what it responded in the past or any of the inputs it had in the past. We're gonna have a generate prompt full. We're gonna have other helper functions here for capabilities. And for the
Yes,
history.
you are right, but we are trying to make it super simple for the people and short because they have short focusing time.
I guess so. Gotta cater to all the TikTok brains out there, you know? Right, so we want to generate the scene, the capabilities, and the... I'm wondering if for the sake of consistency, I have capabilities returns with the tags around them as well, versus the history prompt, which will already have that. You know what? Fuck it, we'll do it. Whatever. This is my own personal code anyways. Consistency. Scene. Generate prompt scene. Da 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 da. Return. At dot format. Self dot scene prompt. Right? Boom. 1. And you return. Actually pause for a second. I need to iterate through all of the capabilities. 444 capabilities. Or cap in self dot capabilities. The result is equal to capabilities.
What are you trying to do this time, and is this refactoring of the refactored refactor plus a little more refactoring?
Yes, this is a refactor of the refactoring for a little bit more refactoring. This is my own personal version of Project Vita though, which is going to be distinctly different from the ones that I make open source, just so I can tinker with things without having to worry about code quality or stuff like that, or making sure I don't leak things. I want to be able to trim these as well. New capabilities is equal to list I just want to do some cleanup to each of these capabilities before they actually get passed into and saved. Stuff like removing new lines and all that stuff, just for consistency's sake. So new capabilities dot append cap dot replace any new lines with spaces, for example, and stripping off the N, R strip, and L strip, just to remove any white space. It's not be empty or entirely white space. Right. New cap. Or formatted cap. It's equal to this. New capabilities append, formatted cap, and then that gets passed into here. So that way we don't have to do the formatting over here when we're generating the actual prompt. It's already cleaned up for us. Call it no cap. No, I'm not doing that. I need to know what my code does. Results. So this can be result plus equals cap plus a new line. That's good. And then at the very end of this, we can add on the very last token plus equal end, the end token. Right? Yes. Then we can return result. That's all good. Generate history prompt. This should be as easy as result is equal to an empty string. Then we iterate through all the messages in the history. So for message in self.history, but starting from the history length, we will append onto the result message.toText. So this will convert each one of these into a new bit of text and pass each block representing each message in order that they appear in history from oldest to newest at the bottom. That all makes sense. And I'm actually going to add some new lines around here. And do a bit of formatting. Yeah. It would be better if I do the formatting in here though. Yeah, let's do that. I mean, it's fine if I do this here, but let's also add it up to narrator message. Let's do a bit of formatting here as well. Oh, we didn't even save user. Now I'm just like kicking the piss out of this shit. Narrator must not be only a white white space. Oh my god, limit smile. Is it so rare? Is it so rare for a man to smile? Formatted user. Contents. I'm just doing a bunch of exception handling here. It's not really necessary, but I would like to have it in case something goes wrong in the future. Content, no strip, R strip, formatted content. Username must not be white space only. Not be white space only. User content. My refrigerator is running. Well, you better go catch it. Ha 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 ha. Ha 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 ha. Comedy necromancy. Here we go. Content, action. Content, action, content. Must not be white space only. Get rid of you. Response content. That's all good. Okay, we're formatting in here. That's all good. We're asserting inside the actual messages. That's all good. For capabilities, this is fine. Yes. Okay, this is all good now. Now, when we're generating the prompt, we can just do it like so. Each one, oh my god, I cannot type. /n, yes, oh my god, no, I hate this. /n, why is it capitalizing? There we go, /n, and then the actual history. Generate full prompt. Generate full prompt. Hold on. I'll read your message in a second, but let me think. We don't actually need the full prompt for anything like this, but we do need it when we're generating, when we're calling a function like this. The only time we would realistically call this is when we're trying to generate the next response. Maybe. Yes? What I'm trying to say is there's a difference between the prompt we generate or using this history in this format versus what we actually input into an LLM. What we need to input into an LLM is something that looks like this, but we only pass the response tag. That way it knows to start generating what would be inside of the response tag, so action or speak, followed by the actual content and then the end token. And once we see the end token, we can stop generation, right? But as we have it right now, we have it like this without the response tag at the end. And the LLM is free to generate whatever tag it wants. It can generate like a narrator and start hallucinating and shit like that, right? Shit will go wrong. That was a problem that I had the very last time you guys saw JAISON. So we'll need this kind of result for something like summarization of current context, right? If we want to use it for memories. But then we'll also need to generate this response tag if we want to use it for inputting into an LLM. So let's modify this, or let's not modify this just yet. This prompt full can remain as, well, for the context purposes. And we'll call self-generate scene, self.generate scene, capabilities, and history prompt, including you. Yep, this is all okay, right? And we'll return you. But we'll have another function as well. Call this generate prompt for response. And we'll include on the tag response, right? Am I calling it response? What am I calling it? You. And by doing this, we now guide the LLM to generate its response, either being an action or a spoken response. We're limiting its options here. And so we don't actually need any of this. We can just return the fully generated prompt with include length here. And that should be good enough. Right? This man is using dot format. Okay, there's nothing wrong with using dot format, unless if I am just like completely naive about something. Because the reason why I don't like using F strings is because you can't access dictionary elements. If I were to have A is equal to A, B, I cannot do A, because this breaks it. Okay, like let me show you. Python, A is equal to A, B. Ah, shit. Right? Now, if I print this out, A colon A bracket, there we go. Well, shit, it works. There's some scenarios where it just doesn't work. And I don't know. F strings. No, there are scenarios where it just breaks. I know there is. Because that's the entire reason why I switched to dot format. I used to be a F string Andy. Besides, isn't F strings just a shorthand for dot formats? Saving like a couple nanoseconds, you know? Bro is writing in Python too, but it's reliable. Plus, it allows me to do templating. Like if I were to say this is a prompt, I can say,
with making my C# I chatbot for Discord same way, I decided that the I is stupid and I have to remind him the instructions plus memory plus user message.
With making my C# AI chatbot for Discord same way, I decided the AI was stupid. I had to remind it the instructions. Yeah, okay. It really depends on the LLM you're using and how it was fine-tuned. Right? It might be the foundational model that you're using is just absolute ass water, but sometimes I've seen it as well. You guys seen it with the very early J.E. Eisen, where she just doesn't like pay attention to certain areas of text because her fine tuning is completely off, and like she just trained to not pay attention to some parts of text. Ain't no way we're using format in the big 2025. Y'all are sheep, okay? Sometimes the old ways are the best ways. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. Why the fuck? We don't need F strings. We can just use dot formatting. It allows us to template things easier. Why the fuck are we using F strings anyways? Are we just too lazy to type like the extra what is this? Extra 6 characters to fucking have the ability to use templating, like proper templating? Like why? We don't need dot format. We don't need F strings. We can just stick with dot format, guys. Exactly. Assembly isn't broken. We're using it to this day. Like, my life is not inconvenienced by having to type 6 extra characters. Yeah, grandpa. Since when did I become the grandpa? I'm probably younger than, like, the majority of you. Write it all in assembly? Because I am too stupid to write CUDA drivers in assembly. I don't know the fucking CUDA API. I don't know the fucking CUDA library. And that's what PyTorch is for. That's what the Transformers is for. I write this shit not because I like Python, but because it's convenient. Okay. I don't find F strings any more convenient than dot format. Okay. End of discussion. CUDA these nuts? Okay, buddy, you're done. You're unmodded. I'm kidding. Alright, I think this is all good. Is there anything else we need to add though? Anything else? I think for a base formatter or a base prompter, this is good enough, I want to say. I want the unmodded speed run, boys. Oh god. Actually, no, you didn't. No, you didn't. That title goes to Drift. Remember the old senior mod? The one before Boxel? Yeah. RIP him? Yeah, RIP him. He's still doing well. At least I think he is. Last time I talked to him. He's just busy moderating other servers. Okay, I don't think there is anything else we need to add to a prompter for now. So we can go ahead and start implementing the fast API server for debugging. And I'm stuck here moderating this goofy goober. Hey. When 10 years times, when AI replaces all coding jobs, at least you'll have me. You can be a full-time moderator for me. I'm like your backup job if you think about it. In 10 years time, we're gonna be profitable, guys. We're going public. We're gonna be more profitable than fucking the S&P 500. We're gonna be more reliable. We're gonna be the next like blue chip company. All right. Limit AI is gonna take over the future. Model.prompter, import prompter. I'm cool with being paid to just sit around and watch anime and stream. Oh god. I don't even know how much people get paid for moderating. Got time to do some market research. I'll pay you guys the bare minimum. Your benefits? What benefits? You get all the emotes on Twitch. There's your benefits. It saves you like $5 a month. Think about it. I'm being generous here. I'm paying this shit out of my pocket. I should get more thanks than MacTig, since he's dumb. Well, as long as you guys don't like share your salaries with each other, you know, maybe we can make something happen. All right, for /health, we're just gonna return status okay, because there's not like we're running a separate sub process for this. And we don't really care about this since we're not using this as an actual production server. What else do we need? We need to be able to We'll make one for generate prompt full, generate prompt response, and adding or updating each of the following. Prune history, I guess we'll have one for prune history one as well. Why not? So, we'll have post, what do I want to call this? Update, add, patch, history, context. Okay, I'll call this context. Context slash scene. Context scene will have you be a patch, right? Prompter, update, scene, etc. Request will be just the scene prompt. Scene prompt will call you content, and this will just be a normal string. And in fact, we can even add in from Pydantic a field to describe what this is. So description. I'm going all out for this fucking API, even though I really don't need to. This will be called the raw scene prompt. Update scene request. Boom, boom, boom. There you go. Also, Limit, I know how you can make tons of money at crypto mining. Yes, I'm sure Noel will be happy with that one. Limit coin, J. Ison coin. Fucking hell. Yeah, Limit likes to rip us off. He even uses us all the time. For content streams. Yeah, y'all are just realizing I'm using you guys for profit. It took you all long enough to realize. I would love to be paid to piss off Lux. I mean, that's content. To the moon? Oh my god, we're full of gamblers. Crypto shillers. Oh my god, what has this community become? We've become the dark side of Twitch. We've become the very thing we said we wouldn't become. I told Noel you confirmed J.A. Ison coin? Oh god, oh my DMs are about to explode. My DMs are about to explode, bro. Take away internet from MacTig? Bro, we need to time out MacTig or anytime he like says something stupid and he'll basically be permabanned. You were supposed to destroy the Sith, not join them. You know, maybe it ain't so bad to be at the side of the Sith, you know? Maybe in their eyes, they're righteous, and we're just not understanding them. We just gotta open our minds a little, and maybe we can, like, come to an agreeable stance, you know? I'm sure they have their reasons for being the Sith. Some just reason. Warm up. This is fine. We'll just say prompter. Prompter is equal to prompter, like so, and we can make use of this globally now. Woohoo! Prompter configure? No. Dot update scene with the request dot content. Boom. There we go. Yes, and now we can just copy paste this basically. So patch update capabilities. This will be update capabilities, and we'll need a new request object here. I don't know if this is best practice, by the way. I don't know if I'm supposed to make a new model, pydantic model for every single one of these request bodies, if that's best practice or not. I mean, like, I feel like it is because I don't know another way of doing it, but I only just learned it, so I could be pretty naive. Update capabilities.
Gamba.
Okay, here we go again. Daily Gamba. Daily Gamba, bros. Gotta get it out of the system. Alright. List of raw capability descriptions. Also, is there a way I can also add, I'm pretty sure there is a way, I can add validation to each of these fields inside of the base model. So that way when you actually create it, it performs some validation on it. I'm pretty sure there's a way. There's like no way there's not a way for this. It would make things a lot easier, but then again, that's pretty overkill for something like this. It would make more sense to add it to something like Llama, Mellow, or Whisper, but since this is purely for debugging purposes, I don't care for here. But it would be nice to know that for my own knowledge sake. Update the list of capability descriptions. Update capabilities, request dot. Descriptions. Update capabilities. Yes. Okay. That's all good. Next, we need add input narrator, user action response. Add input context, input narrator. And this is going to be a post. Post, yes. Wait, post, put. What's the difference between post and put? When would you use post? When would you use put? I mean, I know you can use either of them interchangeably for the same purposes, but I mean in terms of best practices. When would you use put over post? Because patch, you would do that when it doesn't affect, when calling it multiple times doesn't affect anything. I'm pretty sure it's the same thing for post and put, for one of post and put, but I don't remember which one. It might be post. So I don't know, I might make this a put request. You know what, I'm gonna search it up, I wanna know. When to use post versus put. Post is when you overwrite everything. Put is when you only include the changes you want, I'm pretty sure. Let's see what Google AI says. Post, creating a new resource. Performing non-idempotent operations. So if sending the same request multiple times would result in different outcomes, post is the appropriate choice. Okay, so this is what I was thinking. And I'm pretty sure put then, or wait, is this also idempotent? Meaning that sending the same request multiple times will have the same effect as sending it once. Okay. Yeah. I because the sound of it, put sounds like you're putting something there every single time, right? But it seems like put, if it doesn't affect anything, if sending put multiple times doesn't affect anything, if it's the exact same thing as sending it once, then you would use put. Post, on the other hand, does have cascading effects. That's how I think of it, at least. Before searching this up. Patch is only to modify. So what you're thinking of for put is actually patch. Patch is for, well, patching a data field, for example. So you would first do post or put, and then you would patch something after the fact. So since that is the case, we are going to keep this as put, no, not put, post, because this is non-idempotent, right? Prompter, input, or add narrator. Prompter, add narrator. I cannot type for shit on this keyboard for some reason. Add narrator request. This is going to be content. This is just a normal string. And the field will be content of narrator. Add narrator, add input narrator, and add a new narrator message to conversation history, or just to history. I don't know what to call it anymore. And we'll do the same thing for the next 4. Right, add user. And this will also have the user. New field. Name of user. Content of user. User, new user message. Input. User and request content, as well as request user. This will be action, and oh wait, we need to update you as well. Action, new action message, content of action, input action. That should all be fine now. And last but not least, actual response. Response, 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 and that's all good. Oh wait, I did not update this. This is supposed to be action, add action request, and replace that here as well. So I believe we have all of the updating and adding endpoints added now. We now need 3 more, 1 for pruning, 1 for prompt pull, and prompt response. And these should be gets. No, the prune should be a patch put. We'll do a put, whatever. Prune history request. This will be keep length being an optional integer. And this will be number of, wait, is it optional? Prune is not optional. Okay, never mind. Get rid of that. Number of messages to keep. Boom, boom. Context. Context prune. Context prune, context prune. Yeah. After testing some local AI models, what is your opinion on them? I mean, my opinion has been the same. I've been enlightened in the fact that like I have a better understanding as to how they work under the hood. But my opinion hasn't really changed, because I never really had an opinion of them in the first place. I just saw them as like models you run locally, have more customization over. I think the main place where my opinion has changed is the applications we have to run them, right? Because my main exposure to it originally was Cobalt CPP, and not gonna lie, even though Cobalt CPP is very useful, it is kind of confusing to get started and working, and even then it looks like an application straight out of the 90s, right? But having used like LM Studio, for example,
Tails 1L heads people.
having used LM Studio, the experience just feels so much more polished, and I can see myself enjoying using local AI as a pure like chatbot, not even as an AI VTuber or anything, or integrating with anything. Just like using it as a replacement for OpenAI or Gemini or whatever. I can see it being good, but the only thing is like ChatGPT and Gemini, they're free, and they have the ability to integrate with your local tooling, and they are way smarter. So it kind of becomes like, are you fine with giving up your data to these big corporations in order to use their models? Or do you want to be a full local, run your own stack, run your own Google kind of Andy, right? And for me personally, I don't really care that much about stuff like security, privacy, trying to keep all my shit like away from the corporations. I'm not like that kind of guy, right? I'm completely fine with relying on corporations for this kind of stuff, because like they're putting their fucking billions of dollars to use, right? Might as well make use of it. So yeah, that's kind of like how I've seen it. It's just like the whole reason why I'm switching to fully local now is just because the uptime is more reliable and I have more customization over it, right? But if I wasn't doing this, then I would probably never switch over to fully local AI unless if I have another project that compels me to. Rune conversation or rune history to keep a certain number of recent messages. This is all good. Oh, I should also change what they're returning as well. Probably just gonna be status okay, to be honest. Right? Because these aren't returning anything. When you update the scene, status okay. Same thing here. That's okay. The thing with this observe log context that I've created, it automatically captures and handles any errors to return back a proper response, so I don't have to worry about handling them in here. So if an assertion error does happen, then we'll see it out there instead of in here. All right, this should be all of those done, but the main ones that we actually do care about testing and seeing is getting the histories or the prompts, the actual prompts. So prompt full request. This will include a include length. This is an optional integer. And this is a field for number of recent messages to include in history. I guess I'll just call this prompt generate request, because I can reuse this between generating the full prompt and generating the response prompt. So we'll call this generate full and generate response. And this will just be a get. Get? No. Yeah. Put. I don't know if it makes more sense to have this be a GET request and then just a query. It might be easier to do it that way. Yeah, it'll probably be easier to do it that way. But I don't know how this will work. Hopefully this will work as query parameters. Wait a second. Let me just search it up. Fast API. Or Fast API query parameter using Pydantic. Query parameter models. Sure field, the default. Oh, you can add the validation directly in here? Ooh, wait, that's actually nice. Okay. Read items, annotated. Filter params, query. Query limits. Filter params, query. Oh, okay. In Fast API, you can import query and then include that inside of annotated typing. Okay. So, Fast API, query, and in typing, annotated. I don't know what this annotated thing is, but it seems necessary. So, this request to prompt generation will be annotated with prompt generation request as well as query. And hopefully this works. So include length is optional. Okay. And we should be able to .generate full request include length. And we'll get a result from this. Result is equal to u, return, content, result. So generate a full prompt for summary usage. No one will create another one. So generate full, generate response. Response, did I update the names of these as well? No. Rune, add response, yep, okay, that's all good. Generate for response. And that should be good now. Okay. Query parameter, query tags. Okay, let's give this a try now. There's nothing else we need to import, right? Or nothing else we need to install. This is all pretty much vanilla. Yes. Okay, we should be good to try then. So, conda activate, personal vita, and running this, we need to do python./source/ prompter config equaling to config/dev.yaml. Okay, that should be good. There we go. And I'm actually gonna rewrite you to use number 4, sure. But this is running now. If I open this, come over to /docs. There we go, we have everything here. Nice. So let's try out each of these endpoints one by one. Health check. Should see status okay, status okay. Our server is running just fine, as expected, right? Let's update the scene. Try it out. The scene, I'm gonna say you are streaming on Twitch. Execute. Status okay, status okay. Sick. Capabilities. We are going to keep this empty for now. So let's try it out and let's just pass an empty string. We don't need to actually pass anything, but we'll just do it for now. Execute. Must be a list of descriptions or empty list if none. Whoops. This is an assertion error because I'm not checking the type properly. And it's just for this one, right? We're here. So I need to say is instance capabilities list, and that should be good. If we run this again, that is okay. Let me just run this one more time as well, just to be sure. Okay, now we'll input a narrator. Stream has started. Execute. Status okay. User, try it out. Limit says, hey there. Execute. Status okay. And let's just see what the prompt looks like right now. So for the first run, we're just going to generate it with all of the history. So we're not going to put anything for include length. Try it out. Execute. I thought it was optional. Required field is not provided. I thought this was optional. Literal list optional. The optional typing, optional type. That did not work though. This type hint and default value tells Fast API that if description is not provided in the URL, maybe I need to provide a default. So this by default will be none, let's say. Try it again. Execute. No. There we go. Yeah, this got refreshed because we had to restart it. So fuck, we need to do it all over again. Great. You are streaming on Twitch. Execute. Was that fine? That is okay, yes. Capabilities, try it out, there are none. Execute, status okay, good. Switch up, next narrator, try it out. Stream has started. Execute, status okay, good. User input, try it out. User limit, hey there. Execute, status okay. Switch over, generate full, execute. We see Okay, here is our prompt. You are streaming on Twitch. Into scene, capabilities is empty, and there is nothing after that. Good. And if we come over to generate response, try it out, execute. Yes, we do have the U tag after that. If I include only one message in the history. Wait, what? No, this is not right. We're missing the conversations, which I did make sure was added. So what went wrong there? Okay, when we're generating the full, include length is equal to include length, which by default is none. Let me check the logs really quick because I should be able to see what the input parameters were. So for prompter server, this one over here, we have the arguments. Length is equal to none. Length is equal to none, which is correct. Include length is equal to none. So when we're generating full, include length, pass it into here. Include length, history length is equal to the length of self history. If include length, then history length is equal to include length. So for messages inside of self history, starting from negative history length, it wouldn't be empty. It wouldn't be empty is the thing. Unless hold on, let me test something out in Python. Python a is equal to a list of 1, 2, 3, and if I say a -3, yeah, that's fine. So what's the problem here? Maybe history length is not correct, or maybe they're not being appended correctly. Because I didn't prune anything. Self-history append. They are returning with status okay, so they aren't failing. They aren't asserting wrong. Append. Self-history, self-history. Self-history, length of that. Okay, let me print out the history length really quick, and let me print out the include length. And for each one of these, let me print out the message. These are all for debugging purposes. So save, actually let's restart it. And let's quickly pass in each one of these. Execute. Oh, need to restart. Fuck. Okay, fine. Oh wait, this is on a new port. My bad. Alright, try it out. You are streaming on Twitch. Execute. Good. None. Execute. Good. Narrator. Stream started. Execute. Good. Input user. Limit. Hey there. Execute. Good. And generate full. Execute. Didn't get anything. What happened here? So 2, none, which means history length is 2, Include length is none. This is correct. Oh. Return result. I forgot to return the result. Yes. Yes, okay. I think this should be fine then. Execute. Fuck, I need to go through everything again. Man, I thought Singleton would have kept him alive. This is Singleton, right? Yeah, it is. Okay. Okay, execute, you're good. Execute. You're good. Execute, you're good. Execute, you're good. Fuck. Execute. Here we go. Here we go. See, you are streaming on Twitch. Capabilities, there is nothing. And then we have our narrator message. Stream started. Okay, user, limit, new line, hey there, /end. That's all good. If we look for response, try it out, should see the exact same thing with our conversation. And at the very end, we have you. Why are we adding the /n at the very end there? Is that normal? /end. User prompt, prompt history, end, there /n. Yeah. History, yeah, okay. That makes sense. There we go. Does that make sense? Why are we doing that? Hold on. End. Narrator. Yeah, that makes sense. Prompt history. Ah, fuck it, doesn't matter. Okay, that all is good. If I add history length is equal to 1, we should only see my message then. We shouldn't see the narrator's message. Right? Oh, fuck, I need to restart all over again. Why does it keep deleting everything? What is this narrator? Okay. If I execute you now, we should see the scene, the capabilities of nothing, and it skips the narrator, but it includes me. So, limit, hey there, okay. If I bring this up to 2, we should see the narrator back, narrator stream started. If I bring this to 3, there should be no problems and no extra inputs. Yes, this is all good. Okay is perfect. If I make this 0, then it skips it. 0 does not work. I don't think we'll ever need 0, but why isn't that broken though? Ooh. I need to say is not none. If include length is not none, because 0 is technically falsy. So there we go. That's all good. Okay. Now let's try the action and responses. So action should include, I want to search the internet. Execute. Response. Let me search the internet. Okay, send that. Get a narrator saying you searched the internet for nothing and received nothing. Execute. Come back down to response. Damn. I actually need to search something. Alright, if we execute this now, we should see execute this fully, we should see the responses coming in order without any problems, right? We can have duplication and all that stuff. So let me take this and throw you into a test file and replace each one of you. Each new line with the actual new line. Oh, why am I doing this? /n. Replace this with an enter. Ah, shit. Okay, this is what it looks like. Yes, we have our scene prompt, we have our capabilities, and now we have iterating through you, action, you, response, narrator, yep, and then you, response again. Okay, this is good. I need to change up the scene generation, because I forgot the new lines here. But besides that, I think the prompter and the prompting microservice is all complete. All right, that was relatively pain-free. This has to be the cleanest fucking coding stream we've done so far. There was 0 fucking hiccups with this one. Lobotomy procedure done, lobotomy procedure done. She has a brain. She has a brain. All right, plugins, fuck no. I mean, in a way you can think of this as plugins, but no plugins. All right, we're all done with prompter for today. That was super pain-free, super pain-free. Yeah. So hopefully the rest of the streams go like something like this, because I just want a fucking easier time to finish making off Personal Vita. But yeah, next stream, what are we doing? Next stream, we are going to be working on tool calling. Yes. So we're going to be making use of the actions that are presented by JEIs in here. Like, I want to search the internet, and we need to use that in conjunction with a local LLM or even OpenAI, maybe, who knows, in order to translate those action requests into tool calls and applying those tool calls to make use of our various MCP servers, right? I think all the tools that I'm making are going to be specified through MCP simply because they allow me to more easily create the JSON schema that describes what the input should look like, or what the structured input should look like. This is going to be, I don't know how easy the stream is going to be, because for one, we need to be able to have structured inputs or structured outputs, and so we might need to play around with creating structured specs. And to simplify things, I might end up using OpenAI as my tool calling LLM, because one, I don't want to have to find an LLM that can generate, okay, actually no. Let me think. I'm gonna use OpenAI. I'm gonna make another microservice for OpenAI just for testing on that stream, because I don't want to like absolutely crash my stream by running out of resources or whatever. But the same thing should be applicable for Llama CPP as well, because we've seen previously it has the JSON schema field, it has the structured outputs field, and the definition for that should be not exactly, but very similar in how it constrains the output such that you get proper structured outputs. Because for structured outputs, you don't actually need to fine-tune a model in order to have it generate good structured outputs. You just need to create the proper definition file such that the tokens that it does generate does not conflict with something like the JSON format or the input format of your MCP tool, right? So that's something I need to learn, explore, and implement. Is probably going to be a lot to implement, and it'll look a lot like the MCP server or MCP client that Project JE Ison has right now, and that is pretty lengthy, all things considered. Right, if I can find it. But yeah, that will be a tomorrow problem. If we look at the MCP manager for our Project JE Ison, yeah, it is fucking really lengthy. Most of it has to do with managing each of the processes, collecting their information and turning that into a prompt, which means we're gonna have to make our own mini prompter as well. I might do it like a MCP client microservice, who fucking knows? I don't know, to be honest. But yeah, that is a tomorrow me problem, like I said. Anyways, I will see you all tomorrow. Enjoy the rest of your days. And let's pray things go smoothly tomorrow. All right, see you next time.